I am this community Clovia, welcoming you to another edition of Her Story RVA. It's an episode with Urban Baby Beginnings and American Heart Association. Tonight we're going to discuss maternal health and mental health. They go together. Tonight we're joined again with founder and executive director of Urban Baby Beginnings, Stephanie Spencer.
Hi, Clovia. It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you too. Urban Baby Beginnings is the leading nonprofit providing community support services specifically for pregnant and parenting families here in Virginia. We also are joined this evening by Marion Dancy, who is a mommy herself. Welcome to Mommy World. Marion is a heart survivor and maternal health advocate. Through her volunteer work with the American Heart Association, Marion amplifies awareness around heart disease and maternal health among women of color. And as a founder of Renew Columbus, Marion guides women toward a path of purpose after life altering experiences. Her purpose driven mission is to create spaces where women feel seen, supported, safe, and inspired. Tonight, we will highlight the importance of maternal health and mental health. Discuss why heart health is important during and after pregnancy, very important. The daily habits that can support heart health and mental health for parents and families, and the trusted resources that families can use to learn more about maternal and heart health and more. Built by moms, Urban Baby Beginnings is Virginia's first and leading nonprofit to build maternal and perinatal health hub infrastructure, delivering direct services while transforming systems of care for pregnant and parenting families across the Commonwealth of Virginia. So I'm going to address you both since Marianne is our special guest. Let's start with you and then we're going to follow it up with Stephanie. Why is heart health important for overall well being during and after pregnancy?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Heart health. Let's talk. Let's dive into it.
Yes.
Hearts are our internal motors, right? They keep our bodies going. So when we think about pregnancy, our hearts work much harder in pregnancy to make sure the baby's healthy, make sure mom's healthy. So when our heart's not functioning correctly, it goes and trickles down into many different areas. So it can affect your mood, it can affect your energy levels, and of course your physical health.
Wow. Stephanie, you want to follow up?
Absolutely. Marion, thank you for opening us up. And I do think this is an important conversation because often, when we get pregnant, we're not necessarily thinking about,
Mhm.
like prior to kind of what is going on with our bodies. And we don't realize the implications of that during pregnancy. And Marion is spot on that, we're carrying more weight on us. Our heart is working twice as hard. By the end of our pregnancy, we have 30 to 50% more blood volume and fluid that we're pumping through our bodies. And so
Mm.
there's really a lot going on. And so when we talk about being able to have a healthy pregnancy, we can't neglect that we must have a very strong heart to be able to do this.
It is so important to have this because these are just some things you don't think about. You're overwhelmed and you get that, additional pounds on, but you don't think that when you go into it, you were healthy and you don't think that there is a problem because it is additional weight that's on your body that you're using as well because the baby is taking up everything. Lord
Mhm.
knows. What is the connection between pregnancy, heart, blood vessels, and emotional health? What does pregnancy, why does, and how does pregnancy affect all three? Let's start with you, Stephanie.
Um, so as far as like the body itself and mental health, when we're taking care of our mental health, we're more apt to take care of, our physical health as well, right? So getting up and walking every day, being able to get to work and do the things that we need to do there, nurturing healthy relationships. There's a huge component of having healthy relationships that also lead into having healthy pregnancies as well. And so you add that to your cardiovascular health. So making sure that your heart is strong, that your blood pressure is within the limits that it's supposed to be. And if not, then what do we need to do?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
something really important, which is also about our weight. And so when we're carrying more weight, when we're heavier than what we are supposed to be, it may seem right now that that's okay during the pre-pregnancy
Mhm.
state. But often some of the cardiovascular issues that we see don't actually pop up until during the pregnancy and the later pregnancy stages and in the postpartum period. And so there are some huge correlations between all of that. And then obviously, if you're not feeling well, if you're not mentally well or feel like you're under supported, you don't have the energy to be able to address some of these things. And so there are direct correlations and impacts to the pregnancy and the postpartum period.
Hmm. Thank you for that, Stephanie. Marion, stress is a common feeling during pregnancy. Can you talk about your experience and how you handle stress during your pregnancy?
Yes. So when I was pregnant, it was actually my fourth pregnancy where I received complications with my heart. But going into it, I was 35 years old, so I was considered advanced maternal age. So it made me want to be more careful. I did the exercise, I ate right, I make sure I
Yes.
had rest, I leaned on my tribe for support. I did all of the things during pregnancy. The key for me was after I received my diagnosis, 6 months after having my child. You get back to real life, and you don't know that in that postpartum period, that's important too.
Yeah.
And health, you got to maintain that health throughout that whole time period. So I got back to my life and I was busy again and I was neglecting my health to some degree, where it's like I'm not exercising as often because I'm busy. I'm busy with my children,
Mhm.
with my family, going back to work, the young baby, all of the things. So I think that, it's important to understand that stress, being stress free or reducing your stress is a lifestyle. It's not something that's just correlated to pregnancy or postpartum
Yes.
period. All of these things affect your physical health, your mental health. So you want to make sure that you're keeping that stress down all the time.
Mm. Resting, walking,
Yes.
and as you're looking at your body that's transforming right in front of you,
Hmm.
and
You're
you're
looking
looking, you're like, wow, my body
exactly.
is outgrowing me.
Yeah, your body's outgrowing you. Things change, things shift around.
Yeah.
Sometimes after having the baby, you're not the same person that you were before. So there's a lot of mental health aspects that
Yeah.
come into play. So it's important to like look at your health and stress as a
Yeah.
holistic approach and really tackling all of the areas. So
Mhm.
we think about we know exercise is good. We know eating healthy is good. We know taking rest is good, but are we being intentional about doing these things?
Yeah. Or just trying, and it's more than just trying to sleep when the baby sleeps, because that's really
Absolutely.
not your rest,
No.
right? Okay. Marion, thank you so much. Stephanie, I want to head on back to you. What factors can increase stress on the heart and mind during pregnancy and postpartum?
Mhm. I mentioned one of the things earlier, which was in relation to our weight. There's a huge correlation that we know in relation to our weight. Our age has some factors sometimes to play in regards to cardiovascular health as well. Our
Yeah.
lifestyle. So, Marion hit the nail on the head in talking about, do we have healthy lifestyles? Are we eating healthy? Do we
Yeah.
have access to healthy foods? Are we watching our salt intake? Are we watching our stress level?
Yeah.
Because those who live in chronic stress are also
Mhm.
going to have harder time with managing their heart health. Mental health issues, when we're not addressing those, also can have some implications, inclusive of just anxiety and depression. And I would say something just to be said about chronic stress in relationships, having healthy relationships, addressing isolation, social isolation. These are all things that are risks to having complications in pregnancy, inclusive of cardiovascular issues. And because we know that mental health and cardiovascular health kind of intertwine with one another, when you
Yeah.
have higher mental health issues that are not addressed, you have a higher propensity to have cardiovascular issues. When you have higher cardiovascular issues, you have a higher propensity to have mental health issues because of the stress and chronic stress that your body is under.
Yeah.
And also, with that, I think it's important to recognize that during there's two time points or multiple time points off, obviously during pregnancy, where you could have more so gestational hypertension, things like that are
Yeah.
happening during the pregnancy, right? So you could have all of these things and they all align well, and then we hit during pregnancy, and then several months later we're starting to see gestational
Yeah.
hypertension. However, there's also something to be said for pre-pregnancy, and are we borderline in our cardiovascular numbers, like our blood pressure,
Mhm.
our the upper number being our systolic rate and our diastolic rate, that lower
Yeah.
number that shows us is our heart resting or not.
Mhm.
And so these are some of the things, not all, that really can increase our cardiovascular risk.
Yeah. Stephanie, thank you so much for sharing that because when you think about it, yeah, I always check my numbers, right? And I'm not talking lotto. And I was in a good space because I was advanced maternity. Um, had my baby at the age of 41 and everything is good. My numbers are good and everything. But then I had a slight elevation of my blood pressure. So I worked it and worked it and worked it after I lost the weight and then it normalized. But my doctor was like, I just want to keep on checking it because it's
Yeah.
somewhere between that 130 and 140. And so that was, as a result of pregnancy, because even though you eat right, you're moving around and you're doing things, the type of work that I do, it was stressful.
Hmm.
And I even brought that stress into the pregnancy because I worked the whole 9 months.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
This is so amazing. So we can save more people's lives. And I like what you said, Stephanie, about the pre-pregnancy. Go into your
Mhm.
pre-pregnancy, understanding where your numbers are, and if they're borderline, you need to speak with your doctor. You need to have a
Yeah.
relationship with your doctor.
And also, Clovia, I think it's important to realize that, over time, the baseline numbers for hypertension have changed over the
Yeah,
years. And so there might be some confusion about where we should be. But, at baseline, we should be below 120 over 80.
yeah,
Not it, now we used to say 120 over 80 is okay and below. So we're really saying below 120 over 80. That's where we want your numbers to be, and to work at trying to get that down with
yeah,
whether it be a nutritionist or dietitian or your provider or a combination of all of that is really really important, and not just during pregnancy but all time span, all time
yeah,
frames for women and men too.
yeah. Marion,
Yes.
healthy habits begin at home, don't they?
Yes, they do.
What daily habits can support both heart health and mental wellness for parents and families?
I think the first thing you need to do is make sure that the habit is small enough that you can be sustainable. I think we try to do these big changes, right? But, you know, changing a lifestyle is difficult. So the things like maybe take a walk in the morning when you wake up. That's something that I incorporated after my heart failure diagnosis. I started taking walks in the morning, fresh air. I got my kids involved. So we take walks on the weekends. We prepare meals together. We try new recipes together. Another thing that my cardiologist actually asked me while I was in the hospital was how was my stress, which we spoke about stress, and it was really high. And I had to take inventory about like where was I
Yeah,
at and what was my lifestyle and how I could adjust some things. So I put myself in therapy for the first time ever. And I think that, we talk about now a lot how good therapy is, but there was a
yeah,
time where we shied away from that. But going to talk to somebody and getting the tools to navigate stress in your life is very important as well. So I think getting people, your family involved, your loved ones involved, making it a group effort. Of course, if you need help, seek help, and then also making those small changes and not trying to do a total crash diet
yeah,
overhaul. Just make a small change and improve on that over time.
yeah. Thank you.
Mhm.
UBB serves the community in all aspects, whether it's connecting us to resources and services or sharing information to support pregnancy and parenting families. Stephanie, How can the maternal health hub system and community programs support both heart and mental health?
Mhm. So, one of the things that we know, we saw this during COVID, many women were extremely isolated during their pregnancies. And for the first time, we really saw drastic increases in cardiovascular issues, preeclampsia, and the like. And so, one of the things the hub really works on is trying to ensure that moms have a local resource through their local perinatal health hub, which are the local care centers
Mhm.
within the maternal health hub system. So, regardless if you're pregnant, postpartum, or have a child under the age of 3, you should have access to women or others who are serving in the capacity of doulas or lactation consultants or even just community members, right? Because, it all starts within community. And so that's one thing I think that the hub does, or I know that the hub does. The other thing is that there's safety in numbers. And I say this with everything, whether it be you're practicing as a perinatal specialist or you are a mom and you need some support. Because when you get into your own home, sometimes you're just by yourself. So, you get your thoughts going and you're like, that was the best idea ever. And then you get in this group of people and they say, hey, did you ever think about this? Did you consider these types of things? And so there's some learning that happens just within community, whether it be that we're talking about our blood pressure, the norms, the signs and symptoms of things that, maybe you experience that might have been a little bit different, or even just ways that you can address your cardiovascular health. Last, the hubs really focus on sharing information because knowledge is power. So we have ambassador trainings, we have doula trainings. We sit on a lot in a lot of spaces where we're always trying to share information, whether it be formally or informally. And so the Maternal Health Hub system's goal is to find like-minded individuals who are supporting women in communities, but also to find every woman that might be impacted by this so that we can also become those that can share generational knowledge. And so that's how we work together, just as moms, as individuals who love on our community, so that we can have safer outcomes, whether it be just internally, impacting ourselves or just our community at large.
Thank you. And Stephanie, you touched on it a little bit, but I want to hand this over to Miriam. How can social support, connection, and rest protect maternal health and mental health?
We
Teach
are,
me.
yes, listen, we are meant for relationships, right?
Yeah.
It's important. It's what keeps us who we are. And I think that in my experience, I know that community saved me.
Mm,
Having people around me that really cared that I was okay, people who would pitch in, even if it's like, I'll let's make a potluck so you don't have to work so hard for dinner. All of those things mattered when I was trying to recover. So I think that making sure that you have people around you that you love and that love you and that you can give that mutual support to. I
yes.
think that rest is something that we know we need, especially as women wearing many hats. We
Right.
are we're working, we're providing for families, we are doing all of the things, and it's
Mhm.
important that we make sure that we know that rest is our birthright. It's not just something that we should indulge in when we get a chance to. No, we need rest. It's our medicine. It keeps us going. It keeps us healthy. Rest with community is what we need together and work those things together to make sure that we're doing well and checking in with ourselves also because that is a key thing. Sometimes we get going and we forget that to make sure that we're okay. And I know that as a woman, I have a lot of things going on, and just having that accountability partner like, Marion,
Yes.
are you okay? Is everything good? Do you need something? And being that space and holding that space for other women, other mothers, and other family members as well.
Marion, thank you so much for,
Yes.
teaching and to me. I'm receiving it. I'm receiving it. I'm trying. So, got a quick question.
Mhm.
Is resting like you come home and you just lie in bed? Is that resting?
If that is your version of rest, that's okay. There's more to rest than just laying down and sleeping. Okay, there's a power in saying no. I can't take on this task right now because I don't have space for it. I have a lot of things going on.
So why are you in the
So
head, Marion? Why are you doing this? This wasn't about me. Why are you talking about me in
listen, I do it myself. I'm talking to myself right now. So I learned the power of saying no. No is a complete sentence. I don't have space for it right now. It's not that I don't want to support you. I don't have space for it right now. So rest is a combination of things. Rest is saying, okay, I show up for my family, and I enjoy that. I love that, but I need to organize because I need to be able to be present. So rest is also being present in the being able to be present in the moment and not have a million things going on where we're distracted, because our
Yeah.
our minds are still working when we do that. So being present, saying no, getting that nap in, that's important as well. I love a good nap.
In
But
the middle of the
it's
day.
more to it than just that.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you too, Stephanie. The postpartum period involves physical healing and emotional adjustment. What should families know about caring for emotional and physical recovery after childbirth? I want to start with you first, Stephanie.
I think the first thing is that families need to understand that that presents different ways for different people, right? So, for me, the way I rest and recover may look very, very different. Um, I echo Marion's thoughts about, emotional, physical, and spiritual rest
Mhm.
and being in the power of no. And I realize sometimes, however, that life goes on with our families, but we're still rearing a newborn, and we're still recovering from childbirth and recovering in the postpartum period.
Yeah.
And what we don't do well is we say that, like, I'll give you a great example. At UBB, 98% of moms say that their support system are their family and friends. But when it comes to us including them at the hospital level on teaching and things like that, sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't, but it definitely isn't 98% of the time.
Mhm.
And so what you have are family members and friends who are often they're not sure, about what to do and how to support their loved one. And they also don't realize that over time, historically, things have changed. So women are having a lot more complication in their recovery. They're being asked to go back to work much sooner than what they should. And then, if you have the complexities of being in the home and having to take care of other children, there's a lot more to be said for the needs. So for that individual. So one, families need to understand that everybody's recovery journey is different. Number two, there is no such thing as the snapback culture. I saw, I don't know, was it Nara or whatever? And she had this little tummy and all this, and this beautiful little baby. And, she was up videoing herself because she's an influencer and all that. And that's great, but that's not reality. And I have three children. I can tell you I was not on the camera, videoing myself. But there's this period of privacy that
Right.
is needed for families to not only adjust to a new personality in the home, adjust to the changes in the sleep patterns and feeding patterns. They need to understand how their baby behaves when they're hungry, when they're wet, when they're cold.
Mhm.
And also too, families have to understand that in chaos, it's really difficult to know when there's something wrong with your body, because you're addressing the chaos
Yeah.
versus focusing on what's happening as you are recovering.
Yeah.
And so the best thing that families really can do, and what they most at certain must do, is they must put a plan together to have reliable support for the person who has just delivered a baby, and that they need to have frequent checkpoints to ensure that if there are warning signs, that there are problems, that those things are being addressed. And number three is that we should really never send someone to the doctor by themselves,
No.
or the hospital by
Mm,
themselves. And
never.
I see that a lot. I see
Wow.
moms coming to their doctor's appointment and no one's with them, because there's something to be said for dad having to work, or grandma having to work, or someone's working, people are working.
Yeah.
But when you get in front of a provider and they're sharing all this information for the first time, what happens is you think about it, you have to adjust to what's being said, And then later on, you have questions. Well, what happens when no one else was there? And so you don't have a witness to what has happened. And so now your mind is going about all of the things, and maybe some of those things are right. Maybe you missed some things. A lot of things happen during that time. So the other thing is, don't let your loved one go into the hospital and into these clinical providers' offices by themselves. They need a thought partner. Remember, this is not meant to be in isolation. And then last, what I would say is family members need to know that it is okay to question and say something doesn't look right. And as that family member, to have the right to interject and to say, hey, there's a
Yeah.
problem and I need you to listen to her because I'm seeing this, and to put heads together. Because when someone is stressed, when they think that they're going to be separated from their baby, things like that, moms have a tendency to say, no, I'm just going to go lay down and I'll figure it out later. But sometimes there is no later. And so we have to make sure that we are strong advocates for ensuring that our family members are okay, and that we can address the complexities of what's going on over a period of time. And it's not meant to scare anyone, because the reality is most pregnancies go really well and there's not complication. But
Mm-mm.
when there is, we have to really use that group community mentality, which puts families at the forefront of protecting their loved ones in these social systems and in these hospital and clinical systems as well.
All right. Thank you for that, Stephanie. Miriam, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just add a few notes. I agree with Stephanie that it's not about bouncing back. Give yourself grace. The mothers should give themselves grace, and take your time and speak up and ask for what you need, even if someone may not notice what you need that's near you, and you may be used to taking on so much and
Yeah.
just handling it.
Hmm.
But this is a sensitive time, and it's important to slow down and really ask for the help that you need, ask for the support that you need, and for the families to make sure that they are patient with you and they're listening more than they're advising, because sometimes we give our advice because we have life experiences, and every mother's journey is unique and different. So what may have worked, or may what you have seen work for someone else, may not work for the mother that you're caring for. So making sure that we're catering and tending to those specific needs, holding space for her to get rest, making sure that we support as a family, like going to those doctor's appointments. That's really important, because I know I'm also a caregiver, and there are things that are missed by the person who is receiving care, and it's helpful to have that other person in the room to question,
Yeah.
to inquire about different things. So it's important to have a whole operation of support around this mother to make sure that she's well as she goes on her healing journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Culturally response. This is a good one. And trauma informed care is essential for addressing the unique needs of diverse populations. How does culturally responsive and trauma informed care improve heart and mental health outcomes, Stephanie?
I would definitely say that when I'm in spaces where I'm with individuals that look like me or have the same background as I do in certain spaces, I'm more willing to share, and feel like someone's able and apt to understand my journey. And so I do think it's really important to recognize that. And that's not something that can be taught. It is just something that is just, throughout your lifespan, you recognize, that there are certain groups that you have a more of an affinity for or connection with. So, for me, being in groups with other women of color, those who are nurses, because I'm a registered nurse, so just kind of going down that line. And I have 3 children, so I can resound in different types of groups. It doesn't have to be just my racial or ethnic background.
Mhm.
Um, the other thing is that it's really important to be engaged in spaces where they are trauma informed, because not being trauma informed can look like I present into a space and I see as I'm overwhelmed, I'm talking about that, and next thing you know, someone's doing to me. So what that means is versus my voice being heard, there are a lot of assumptions that are being made. Everybody has their thought about how I should be addressed in this situation, what that should look like as well. Maybe I've been forwarded to agencies that I don't want to be forwarded to, or even maybe some of the treatment plans that have been provided are not in alignment with my cultural values. The other thing I think is that when we really think about trauma informed approaches, I've had this sometimes in clinical care where I'm entering into a space and I'm sharing what's going on with me, and I have a lot of historical information, only for the person to look at me and say, "Well, you know what? I have a degree from Yale, so if you don't want to listen to me, well, I don't." I've had that
Yeah.
happen. And when we're thinking about people who have trauma informed approaches, we recognize that there's a lot of historical context that a person is
Mhm.
coming with, and
Yeah.
that story and that journey places them where they are. And so as opposed to us making an assumption about the fact that, oh my God, this person is stressed, she's going to do this or whatever, we realize that there's all of these journeys that person has gone through, which have placed them into this space. And now, as opposed to us being judgmental, we can then approach that with sensitivity and with love and care in a way that's more therapeutic versus
Mhm.
punitive.
Okay. Well, we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much for being here, ladies, Marion, and of course, Stephanie with UBB. What trusted resources that families can use to learn more about maternal and mental health? Steph?
So I heard Marion has a wonderful organization that
Oh, yeah.
is
Wait a
working
minute.
with
Hold on,
moms. So
Stephanie. Hold on, Stephanie. Let me give it over to Marion.
yeah, I
Tell
was
me
going
what
to pass it to Marion.
organization.
Yeah, yeah. So anyone in the Columbus, Ohio area, my my organization is Renew Columbus, and you can find that at www.renewcolumbus.com. And also, I have to give it to the American Heart Association too. Go Red for Women. I am a member or former member of the Class of Survivors of 2024. They have great resources as well, and leading research on heart disease. So want to make sure I plug them in as well.
Yeah,
Mhm. And
absolutely.
also, just to add, with American Heart Association, they have a website that has a ton of resources, not only for mothers, but professionals. And then, obviously, always Urban Baby Beginnings Maternal Health Hub System is really important. There are also state mental health lines, which we will be sure to run on the banner so that you all can see those resources as well. But for cardiovascular health, for sure, American Heart Association is your best source for evidence-based information, and for social support, urbanbabybeginnings.com. Oh no, .org, sorry. urbanbabybeginnings.org.
Okay. Well, a lot of information has been shared here today, and my takeaways are you don't have to be alone. You should have a village. Don't ever go to the doctor alone. And the biggest takeaway is no. It's a complete sentence. Thank you, Marion. You saved my life. Well, it's been a great show, and we want to thank you, our sponsors, Stephanie and Urban Baby Beginnings. And we just appreciate all persons for joining us. And Marion, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, say no.